Welcome to Dory's Rant and Debate, Sandman versus Gaara. You probably wonder why I'm doing this video. You probably already have a bias coming in. I already know who you're gonna win, but I seen this on Facebook, this image right here on Facebook, and every single person favored Sandman. Wasn't a single Gaara fan out there. Nobody knew anything about him. The reason why they put these two together because they're both Sand users, and people want to know who will win between these two. But everybody, like I said, favored the Sandman. He said he's more ruthless, he's dangerous. He gave so much huge facts about him in the comment section on Facebook of the Sandman. So I'm gonna give you a little history about both of the characters, some abilities, their character traits. Strap in. This one's gonna be a lengthy one. First off, let's start with the Sandman. Sandman's background, he went by William Baker to begin with, before he eventually changed his name to Flint Marko when he started doing underground crime. But he was just petty criminal, nothing really big, nothing huge. He was already not the best kid to begin with. His father abandoned him growing up, then his mother abandoned him eventually at 3, kicked out of school, what made him go into his crime type ordeal eventually. And then he ended up getting arrested, and then he escaped and went south to Georgia then he found himself on the beach and happened to be a nuclear site, like people know. Nuclear steam site exploded, knocked him unconscious, and boom, here we go. We got the Sandman everybody know and love. Brief history about him, because a lot of people already know about the Sandman. There's lots of stuff about him you can find on wikis if you want to, but that's what he's about. Sandman, is he good or evil? His character kind of balances back and forth between the good and the evil. He fought with the Sinister Six. He fought with the Avengers. He fought with lots of different leagues throughout his character. His first issue was in the '60s, so lots of history and lots of things that he's done over time with his character. But some of the Facebook comments basically labeled him, what's the word I'm looking for? Unlimited. There's no limit to his powers, is basically what they were saying. He can do anything. That's basically, if you read every comment that I was reading. I even got a few of the comments here with me today that I took down to address here. Somebody said that Sandman control vast deserts. I ain't never been to New York personally, but I don't think there's deserts in New York. But he can't control deserts, but there's none in New York. Anyways, they basically labeled him, he has no limit. So I'm going to hit a few things about Sandman. His powers and abilities, he can't control and manipulate sand to the smallest molecule, making it harder, changing the density, make all different types of shapes, such as spears, knuckles, huge knuckles with spikes on them, all shapes you can think of. He fights close range, mid-range fighting. He can shoot the sand off to make projectiles and throw them. Then he can make it soft so somebody's punching. Most physical attacks do no damage to the Sandman because he can make it sand soft. Then he switches it to harden it when somebody's inside him to trap him. Kind of one of his signature moves he does. Obviously, people don't know the Sandman. He is weak against water and heat-based attacks. Water kind of makes molecules harder for him to control, and heat's harden it so he can't control it either. A lot of people don't know one of the weaknesses of his is a beehive mind. There's literally only one molecule out of all the sand that he can control that controls the rest of the sand in his body. Not that I'm saying everybody can hit it, but Spider-Man eventually figured out there's only one of them out of the billions and billions of sand particles that sends a message to all the rest of them. He can use the sand to manipulate the area around him to make the dirt and everything else, make it crumble it to make it sand, his ability if necessary. But that weakness being said, he has a human consciousness that he can only do so much with the sand. Sandman can, if he uses too much of it at once, he loses control of it. So if he makes gigantic, huge versions of the sand, he will get slower and won't be able to fight as fast as you see when he uses the smaller sand. And he's one time done the comics, cloned himself with the sand, splitting his consciousness into multiple Sandmans. He loses complete control of the sand when he does that, because each one has a different personality. And one personality accidentally killed the mother of his kid. He had no control of it. He had no idea it did that, because that's what happened when he has human consciousness in the sand. He can only control it so much to a limit. But yet there's no limit to how long he can hold the sand. That's also one thing about the Sandman. He can hold it for various amounts of sand, being huge and long. He doesn't have stamina with that. So that's one thing they were right about. He was ever knocked unconscious while in the sand form, he'd stay sand. If he was knocked unconscious in his solid form, he'd stay solid. Because he can hold that form for almost no time at all. But like I said, his consciousness is a huge weakness, and not many people always play into battle with his sand. Using massive amounts of it will make him lose a bit in control of it. So many particles and beams of sand. In fact, somebody can knock out that hive mind inside of his body, taking out the rest of his sand out. But not again, it's not a huge weakness if to a regular person. Dangerous guy, bad character. He's not going to say the smart guy. I wouldn't say he's a genius. But he is a ruthless thug. Wouldn't say much of a killer. More of a thief, more of a criminal type. Not your run-of-the-mill guy. You'll find to do lots of murders and type that. But Sandman is dangerous, and he does have limits. Popular to some of the Facebook beliefs. So, without further ado, I'm going to educate you guys about Gaara of the Sand Village. His village is literally in the middle of the desert. You know that taste you in your mouth when you go to the beach, get some sand in there? That's literally every meal they ever eat. Ever. The meteorologists are probably like, why do I work here? Why? It's literally the same weather every single day. I don't even know how we grow crops here. I don't know whose idea was to put our village in the middle of the freaking desert. Sorry, I got distracted. This guy's, he's kind of all about sand. It's kind of his thing. He just didn't get his powers. He kind of had his ability since he was born. Unlike Sandman got it later on, he had his abilities from the jump. Gaara was not the most loved kid. Father actually wanted to use him as a weapon. He wanted to use the Jinchuriki inside of his body. I'll explain that later, but he wanted to put that inside of his body as a kid. He put it inside his mother while she was still pregnant with him, making his birth premature, making him an extremely small little baby. His mother died shortly after. And he was isolated as a kid. Not many friends going around, hanging around. Everybody in the village hated him because they realized he was a Jinchuriki. Nobody wanted to talk to him. He had no friends, and he tried to make friends a few times, but his sand, without his control, ended up killing people on accident, killing a few people on accident, making him stray farther and farther from people. He didn't understand human emotions. He didn't understand pain. He didn't really grasp the concept as most people would, making him a little distraught. One person actually did like him. That was his uncle, who eventually tried to kill him, given orders by his dad. His dad was actually the leader of the village and gave him those orders. And before he died, he lied to him, told him his mother didn't love him, his dad doesn't love him, and I never loved you. Died and exploded, and Gaara was protected by his sand. Be given that to start, he had this mindset. He had a different mindset when he entered the series. He was evil. He was cryptic. Anybody who came in contact with him and pissed him off died almost instantly. Because that's kind of was his character. He had a mentality to kill literally everybody in existence. He believed that everybody in existence needed to die as long as they lived. They just needed to. Anybody stronger than him, powerful than him, anybody similar to him, he felt as though their life was meaningless. That was kind of the mindset coming into the series where you see him. That's young Gaara. This is the Gaara we're talking about. What his background is. His abilities and traits. Gaara, similar to Sandman, can control sand and manipulate, but he does not fight at a close range. He basically stands back and kind of does his own little Gaara thing. Here's another thing from Facebook is they said Sam and Gaara will run out of sand halfway through the battle. That's wrong. Gaara has shown to have an immense amount of chakra without his Shikaku beast inside him. He controls an immense amount of chakra within the series. He can control shadow, sand clones, sand shurikens, sand knives, all types of weapons he can do with sand, using it as projectiles, and all sorts of things he can do with it. Some of the comments also said, Gaara, Sandman has to wave his hand signs doesn't have to use hand signs to use the sand, or Gaara, on the other hand, have to use all types of sand. But if you know Gaara and you watch the series, this is 90% how he fights. That's just 100% how he fights. If the man puts his hands up, that's when you know you need to run. You need to get out of there because his hands is up and he's about to hit you with one of those sand coffins, sand burials. You don't know what those are? You should be scared. if you're on the other side of the field facing Gaara. Okay, I think I'll give you a good description of their powers, abilities, backgrounds, a little brief history of these guys. Let's get into the battles. Usually I do my battles, I don't heavily rely on stats or what their previously feats or what they did in other issues, because it means nothing because they're facing each other for the first time here. The attitude, abilities, and how they interact across genres always plays huge factors when I'm doing these debates. So, for the sake of Gaara and Sandman, a long range fighter versus a close range fighter, Sandman can lift over 80 tons. He's extremely strong, depending on how much sand in his body, and if he gets close, he can probably hurt Gaara. But unlike Sandman, Gaara has two things of defense that he has. He has his natural shell defense that naturally protects him from attacks that he doesn't really have to use. Like I mentioned earlier, when he just stands there, his sand naturally defends him. As a kid, when he was nearly killed, it defended him. And as a kid, when he killed people on accident, his sand naturally defends him. Is the ability he got from his mom right before he died. Some people think he got it from Shikaku, the beast, the Jinchuriki that I mentioned, but he actually got it from his mom right before she died. She embedded her chakra inside Gaara to protect him from any harm, because she assumed his dad or somebody might try to kill him. And she was right. He was in danger. So his sand naturally protects him without him having to do anything at all. Without him just, he tried the one time as a kid, pull a knife, tried to stab himself, and the sand instantaneously stopped it from happening. That's kind of how his defense works. Second level of defense is he has a layer of sand on his skin like armor. So if you get in with a physical attack, it'll stop you from piercing him and breaking bones and injuries from Gaara. Very dangerous. 2 levels of defense is good if Sandman can get in. So if these two battling and fighting, people had said that Sandman will control Gaara's sand, he'll win. But some people said that Gaara can control Sandman sand, and he will win, because kind of what he is. That's kind of how the battle go back and forth. They both have the ability to manipulate the area around them, to break it down, to use sand. They don't always have to use the sand inside him, and Gaara doesn't have to use the sand inside of his gore to fight, because he has a huge gore on his back that he uses, and he doesn't have to use it in battle. Given that, I mentioned earlier that Gaara was supposed to be a weapon for his father. His father thought it was going to be a failed weapon. He had people to kill him, but I called him a Jinchuriki earlier. People who don't know what that is a tail beast that lives inside of Gaara. For the sake of this battle, we are using young Gaara, because that was the image displayed on Facebook. It was young Gaara versus Sandman. The older version of Gaara we're not going to use because it wasn't displayed. Just as dangerous, but this is the one we're using now. And I mentioned Jinchuriki specifically because that was displayed in the image, and it's a key factor in the fight. What's going to give Gaara the edge, in my personal opinion. Because not only can Gaara use his Jinchuriki's abilities, he can use it throughout battle, such as changing his shape or use it in weird type of forms and abilities with it, giving him a huge edge inside the hand-to-hand combat usually he doesn't use. But using that Shikaku to cover his body in gives him an edge in hand-to-hand fighting. And not that I'm saying he can kill Sandman, because Sandman has been known to be unkillable. Known to completely be nearly unkillable because of his body. And if Gaara was to use the full power of Shikaku, a gigantic sand demon beast thing, I don't think Sandman can stop it with all the sand in the desert. So he can try, he can knock it, he can hit it, but eventually he probably will lose control, or Gaara will probably seal him within the sand in his gore. I can see this fight only going favoring Gaara. If you see by that, I'm going plus Gaara's side at the end of this fight. I can only see it favoring Gaara because Gaara can kind of control his body. And chakra will play a huge factor in the fight, because Sandman will face an opponent who can control chakra. Sandman has been brainwashed before. He has been under control by other criminals and villains, criminals in the series before. So, and that won't, not saying it won't happen if Gaara controls the sand. If Sandman was to get close quarters with him and actually hurt him with the sand, it'd be very difficult to get close to him, because it's the only person that got close to him had to use super speed, and Sandman's not a super speed type character. And also, Sandman cannot manipulate sand that's not attached to his body. Once it detaches from his body, he has no complete control of it. He can only control sand that's inside of his body and that his body is touching. On the hand, Gaara doesn't have to 100% touch. As long as his chakra's embedded inside that sand, he can use it to fly and go all around. It doesn't have to be touching the ground for Gaara to literally be able to use it. That's the advantage on him. Me and Sky are levitating, going all types of ways. So I say Gaara's the winner of this debate because he basically controls what Sandman is. But if you have any other ideas of that, let me know in the comments section of who you think will win. Let me know how I did for my first debate. I thought this was a fairly easy one, but I want to educate some people about Gaara and what his ability is, and the fact that Gaara is a killer by nature, Sandman isn't, and Gaara most likely seal him in the gore.